What would you do if your only son called to tell you that you weren't welcome at his wedding? That's not the kind of question most people ever expect to answer, but it slammed into me on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon in Savannah, Georgia, as the ceiling fan whirred lazily above my kitchen table. I was holding a mug of chamomile tea, still warm, when the phone rang. My son's name, Ryan Williams, flashed across the screen. I smiled instinctively, because no matter how old your children get, hearing from them still sparks a mother's heart. "Mom, we need to talk," he said. I froze. I knew that tone. It was the same one he used at 16 when he admitted he'd dented the car, the same trembling cadence when he failed his first college midterm, always the prelude to disappointment. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, my voice calm though my grip tightened around the phone. Ryan hesitated. That pause, the kind that tells you the words are already decided, he's just stalling to spare himself, felt like a knife pressed against my chest. "Ashley and I have been discussing the wedding," he finally said. "Here it comes. She's really stressed about everything being perfect. You know how brides get." I did know. I'd been one, once upon a time, long before Ryan's father decided that fatherhood wasn't his calling, but I stayed quiet, letting him dig his own grave. "And she doesn't feel comfortable with you there?" Silence, deafening, humiliating silence. 27 years. That's how long I'd raised Ryan alone, juggling double shifts, taking night classes so I could climb from teacher to principal, sacrificing weekends, vacations, and any shred of personal life I might have had. I paid for his college, his first car, even the deposit for his apartment in California. I'd bitten my tongue through 2 years of Ashley's passive-aggressive digs about my outdated opinions and old-fashioned cooking. "And now this? She thinks your presence might make things awkward," he added, as if repeating it softer would somehow hurt less. "And you agree?" I asked, keeping my voice even, though my heart hammered against my ribs. "Please, Mom, don't make this harder than it is. It's just one day. We'll have a nice dinner after the honeymoon." I could almost hear the relief in his sigh when I said, "Of course, sweetheart, I understand completely." "Really? Thanks, Mom, I knew you'd be reasonable about this." The call ended. My hand shook as I set the phone down. My eyes drifted to the refrigerator, to the elegant wedding invitation I'd helped him address weeks earlier because Ashley claimed her carpal tunnel was acting up. "Mr. and Mrs. Ryan Williams request the honor of your presence at Sunset Beach Resort, Santa Barbara, California." I pulled it off the fridge, tore it in half, then tore it again. The pieces fluttered into the trash like confetti for a celebration I was no longer invited to. My kitchen felt too quiet, too empty. I poured myself a glass of Merlot, its deep red swirling like the anger rising in my chest. This wasn't just about a wedding. This was about being erased, shoved aside after decades of sacrifice. I sat at the table, sipping slowly, and let the humiliation crystallize into something sharper, not despair, not grief, strategy. Because what Ashley Thompson didn't know about Margaret Williams was this. I might be 62, but I've been navigating drama longer than she's been alive. 30 years as a high school principal teaches you exactly how to deal with entitled, manipulative children, and make no mistake, Ashley was just another spoiled child who thought she'd won. She hadn't. I opened my laptop. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen lines etched deep around my eyes, silver streaking my hair, but behind that face was a brain sharper than ever. I started typing, searching, mapping out possibilities, social media accounts, cameras, timelines. I didn't yet know the shape of my plan, only that there would be one. Because if I wasn't welcome at my son's wedding, then the truth would be. The fan hummed above me, steady, relentless, like the resolve building in my chest. My mind replayed every moment Ashley had smiled sweetly while undermining me, every family dinner where she turned Ryan against his own friends, every sigh she gave when I tried to connect. She thought she'd cut me out cleanly. She thought I'd just fade into the background. Wrong. I closed the laptop and drained the glass of wine. My heart was no longer broken, it was focused. The next morning, at exactly 8 a.m., I picked up the phone and dialed a number I hadn't called this early in years. "Margaret? What's wrong?" my sister Sandra answered groggily. "You never call before 9 unless someone's dead." I smiled, though it wasn't a warm smile. "Not dead," I said, "just disowned." There was a sharp inhale. "He did what? That little weasel?" I leaned back in my chair, eyes narrowing as the plan began to form in full. I need your help, Sandy. It's time we did a little reconnaissance. The next morning the world looked the same, but nothing felt the same. Savannah's moss-draped oaks swayed gently in the early sunlight, as if life carried on unchanged. Yet inside me, something had shifted. I wasn't the same Margaret Williams I had been before Ryan's call. I was no longer the mother who quietly endured, who swallowed slights and smiled through humiliation for the sake of peace. I was someone with a purpose. At precisely 8 a.m., I picked up the phone and dialed a number that rarely saw daylight hours. My sister Sandra answered on the second ring, her voice husky with sleep and annoyance. "Maggie, what in God's name do you realize what time it is?" "Not dead," I said calmly, "just disowned." That woke her up. "What?" she practically barked. "He did what? That little weasel, after everything you've done for him?" Her outrage was gasoline on the spark already burning inside me. I told her everything: the phone call, Ashley's demand, Ryan's cowardly compliance. Sandra muttered curses that would have made a sailor blush. When I finished, there was a silence so sharp it cut through the line. "So what's the plan?" she finally asked. I almost laughed. "Sandra always knew me too well. You've got that calculating voice again," she continued. "The one you used when that Patterson kid tried to cheat on his SATs. What are you scheming, Maggie?" "I need information," I said flatly. "On Ashley, her routine, her friends, her patterns. Every detail." Sandra gave a low whistle. "Reconnaissance. You know that's my specialty." It was true. Where I had discipline and strategy, Sandra had charm and mischief. She could get secrets out of a locked vault if she batted her lashes hard enough. We made a dangerous team, one righteous, one reckless. "I'll handle it," she said. "Tell me where she works." "Morrison Marketing, downtown Los Angeles. Age 28. Thinks the sun rises and sets on her." Sandra chuckled darkly. "Oh, I can't wait to meet this girl." "Well, not meet, exactly. More like shadow." I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the Spanish moss swaying in the humid air. "Be careful, Sandy. We're not breaking laws, just collecting facts." "Relax, sis. Information gathering is practically legal. Besides, you always had the brains, I had the nerve. This will be fun." For Sandra, everything was fun when it smelled even faintly of trouble. For me, this wasn't a game. It was war. By Thursday, Sandra had already worked her magic. She called me that afternoon, giddy. "Got her routine down to the minute," she said. "Ashley leaves her office every day at 12:15 for lunch. Back at 1:30 on the dot. She's like clockwork." I even sweet-talked the receptionist into giving me the brand of flowers she likes. Said I wanted to surprise her. Idiot, actually told me. I allowed myself a smile. "Nicely done." "That's not all," Sandra added. "Guess who she's been having lunch with?" My stomach tightened. "Who?" "A tall, dark-haired gym owner named Jake Patterson, married, 2 kids. Oh, and his wife posts about their perfect family life on Instagram every day." I closed my eyes, inhaling sharply. "You're sure?" "As sure as I am that bourbon tastes better after midnight. I followed them yesterday." "She's not discreet, Maggie." Practically climbed into his lap at a cafe 2 blocks from her office. A rush of vindication surged through me. Ashley Thompson, so smug, so certain she'd erased me, was busy constructing her own downfall brick by brick. "You got pictures?" I asked. Sandra laughed. "Honey, I got video." My pulse quickened. The plan was no longer abstract. It had form, weight, evidence. That night, I sat at my desk, reviewing the footage. Ashley in her designer heels, her manicured hand brushing against Jake's arm like it belonged there. Her laugh, coy and confident, the kind of laugh Ryan hadn't heard in months. I watched her lean close, watched Jake's hand slide around her waist, and for the first time in 2 days, I smiled. Not because of the betrayal it tore me apart to think of Ryan's heartbreak, but because Ashley wasn't untouchable. She'd handed me the weapon herself. Still, I needed more. A single lunch could be dismissed as just friends. I required a pattern, undeniable, irrefutable proof. Sandra and I doubled down. We tracked Ashley on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the days her schedule grew suspicious. It wasn't hard. Ashley was bold, maybe too bold, as if she believed the world revolved around her and no one dared to question. We followed her from Morrison Marketing to Jake's gym, a sleek little studio 3 blocks away. She strutted out in workout gear that cost more than my monthly electric bill, her hair suspiciously flawless after a supposed training session. Jake emerged minutes later, casual, confident, slipping into the same black SUV. We tailed them to Santa Monica, to a nondescript apartment complex on Maple Street, apartment 214. They entered together at 3:17 p.m. sharp. They didn't emerge for nearly 2 hours, and the next week, the same. And the week after that. The evidence grew, piece by piece, my phone filled with videos, timestamps, locations, Ashley laughing in cafes, Ashley brushing hair from Jake's face in his car, Ashley disappearing into that apartment, like it was her second home. Every clip felt like both a dagger and a shield. A dagger, because each second captured was another cut against Ryan's heart. A shield, because it meant I wasn't helpless anymore. I wasn't silenced or excluded. I had the truth, and the truth was power. Sandra reveled in it. It's like a soap opera, Maggie. And you're the director. But I wasn't directing for entertainment. I was directing for justice. On Friday evening, as I edited the week's footage, the doorbell rang. Startled, I minimized the window. When I opened the door, Ryan stood there, sheepish, holding a bottle of wine. "Mom," he said, "can we talk?" I let him in. He set the wine on the counter like an offering. His eyes darted everywhere but my face. "I know yesterday was hard. Ashley feels terrible about how everything came out. Her family, well, they're very traditional. You know how it is." I nearly laughed at the absurdity. Traditional? Was cheating part of that tradition? But I kept my expression neutral, my voice steady. "You're right," I said. "It's your day. I want it to be perfect." Relief washed over him like a tide. He smiled, small but genuine, and for a fleeting moment I saw my little boy again, the one who used to clutch my hand at the playground. "I knew you'd understand," he said. I squeezed his hand gently. "Of course, I just want you to be happy." But as soon as he left, I reopened the laptop. Happiness built on lies was no happiness at all. That weekend, Sandra and I met at Riverside Mall, pretending to shop for thoughtful wedding gifts. Instead, we plotted logistics over coffee, blending in with suburban housewives planning garden parties. "We're not spying," Sandra quipped. "We're shopping." "Very thoughtful, personalized wedding gifts," I added deadpan. The truth was, we were building something far more dangerous than a gift. We were building a weapon. Ashley believed she'd silenced me. She believed Ryan would never question her. She believed appearances were reality. She had no idea her every move was already cataloged, time-stamped, immortalized in digital clarity. And she had no idea that her perfect California beach wedding was about to become a stage not for vows, but for revelation. Every cheater leaves a trail. It might be subtle, a glance too long, a smile too wide, an unexplained errand at odd hours, but it's there, waiting for someone sharp enough to notice. Ashley Thompson wasn't subtle. She moved through Los Angeles like a woman untouchable, her heels clicking down polished sidewalks, her phone glued to her manicured hand, her hair gleaming under the California Sunday. To her, discretion was unnecessary. She believed in her own invincibility, and perhaps she was right until now. Because what Ashley didn't know was that Margaret Williams had spent 30 years navigating teenage lies, excuses, and manipulations. You don't run a high school without developing a sixth sense for deception. By now, the pattern was clear. Tuesday, Thursday, always the same. Leave Morrison Marketing at 12:15 sharp. Lunch, gym. Then the black SUV. And always, like a clock winding down, 3:17 p.m., entering apartment 214 on Maple Street. The first time, I told myself I might be wrong. Maybe it was a client meeting, maybe it was a business partnership. But the second, the third, the fourth, there are no maybes in a rhythm that precise. Sandra sat beside me in my rented sedan, a coffee cup balanced between her knees, her sunglasses reflecting the apartment complex across the street. "She's predictable," she said, almost boring. "Predictable is good," I murmured, camera in hand. "Predictable makes her easy to catch," Sandra smirked. "Reminds me of the kids at school who cheated the same way on every test. They thought if they did it long enough, it became invisible. But it doesn't," I said. My voice was flat, cold. "It just makes the eventual collapse louder." At 3:16 p.m., the SUV appeared. Ashley in leggings and a designer jacket, Jake in a plain gray t-shirt that strained against his arms. They walked quickly, casually, like this was routine, like this was theirs. They didn't look around, didn't check the street. They didn't need to. In their minds, the world was blind. Sandra nudgid. Roll camera. Spielberg. The lens zoomed in, sharp, merciless. Ashley unlocked the door, Jake followed, and then the door shut behind them. Time? I asked. Sandra tapped her phone. 3:17. Like always. We sat in silence, the seconds dragging into minutes, the minutes into hours. At 5:42, they emerged, laughing, relaxed, as though the past 2 hours had been nothing more than an innocent chat over coffee. But the camera never lies. By the end of the third week, I had enough footage to make a documentary. Cafe rendezvous. Gym exits. Apartment visits. Time-stamped, dated, airtight. The more I recorded, the clearer it became this wasn't a fling of cold feet before the wedding. This was an affair, established, deliberate, woven into Ashley's life like a second marriage. And Ryan had no idea. The thought nearly broke me. My son, the boy who once cried because his pet hamster died, who gave his last cookie to a friend in kindergarten, who believed in loyalty like it was scripture, was about to marry a woman who lied with every breath. I could already see it, the vows, the applause, the I do's echoing like a death sentence. Not if I had anything to say about it. Friday night, I sat at my desk in Savannah, the glow of the laptop illuminating the lined walls of my face. My desktop was filled with folders, cafe, GYM, apartment, each one bursting with evidence. I opened one clip, Ashley in her coral blouse, Jake leaning in close, his hand brushed hers. She smiled, coy, almost shy. Then she reached across the table, touched his cheek. A gesture too intimate for friends. The bile rose in my throat. Beside the video, I pulled up another window, a fresh, anonymous social media profile I'd been building carefully, the name Sarah Mitchell. A fabricated identity, complete with stock photos, curated posts about weddings, honesty, love, and fidelity. Within a week, the account already had a modest following enough to make noise, not enough to draw suspicion. Sarah was everything Ashley wasn't. Principled, wholesome, believable. And when the time came, Sarah would be the messenger. I leaned back, rubbing my temples. My heart ached with the weight of what I was doing. It wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. It was protection. It was truth. Sometimes, I whispered, a mother has to become the villain to save her child. The next day, Sandra and I returned to Riverside Mall, two women blending into the suburban blur of shoppers and chatter. We carried bags, but inside them were not gifts, only notebooks, cameras, and a laptop. Tell me again why we're here? Sandra asked, sipping her latte. Because nobody looks twice at two middle-aged women in a mall, I said. We're invisible here. That makes it perfect. Sandra grinned. Invisible, huh? Speak for yourself. I look fabulous. Her levity made me chuckle despite myself. That was Sandra's gift. She could make even the darkest missions feel like an adventure. But for me, this wasn't play. We drove past Morrison Marketing once more, confirming Ashley's routine. At 12:15, she walked out, heels clicking, phone in hand, right on schedule. Clockwork, Sandra muttered. We followed discreetly, cameras ready. Ashley strolled to a cafe, where Jake was already waiting. They hugged too long, too close. She sat across from him, laughing, leaning forward, her hand grazing his wrist. Sandra's voice was tight. How does Ryan not see this? Because he trusts her, I said bitterly, because he loves her enough to blind himself. And you're going to open his eyes. I nodded, one way or another. That evening, Ryan called again. His voice was warm, careful, like a child trying to soothe a parent after bad behavior. Mom, he said, thank you for being so understanding the other night. Ashley's been really stressed, and you being so reasonable helped a lot. I bit my lip, the urge to scream almost overwhelming. Reasonable, that's what they thought I was. Docile, submissive, a mother who knew her place. Of course, sweetheart, I replied softly. All I want is for you to be happy. He sighed in relief. I knew you'd say that. After we hung up, I stared at the wall, my heart pounding. Happiness. He kept saying that word, but happiness built on deception isn't happiness at all. It's a house of cards waiting for the first gust of wind. And I was the wind. Weeks blurred into each other. My life became surveillance, editing, plotting. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I watched Ashley betray her vows before she ever spoke them. Every Friday night, I compiled, labeled, cut, and spliced. My office looked less like a retired principal's study and more like a private investigator's lair. Sandra kept me sane. She cracked jokes, bought snacks, teased me about becoming Hollywood's next documentary star. But when she saw my hands tremble after a particularly damning clip, she squeezed them tight and whispered, "You're doing this for him, don't forget that." I never did. Then, one Thursday afternoon, something changed. Ashley left the gym at her usual time, her hair immaculate, her clothes pristine. She walked quickly, glancing over her shoulder more than usual. Jake followed minutes later, but instead of heading to the SUV, he stopped at the curb, checking his phone. His brow furrowed, he looked nervous. Sandra leaned forward, "Something's off." Ashley walked ahead, alone, toward the SUV. She paused, pulled out her phone, then climbed inside. Jake didn't follow. He stood there, typing furiously, then turned and walked the opposite direction. "Where's he going?" Sandra asked. "Follow Ashley," I said. We tailed her to Maple Street, but this time she didn't go inside the apartment. She sat in the SUV for nearly 20 minutes, scrolling through her phone, her face tense. Then she drove away. I frowned. Why break the pattern? Sandra's jaw tightened. Because something's shifted. Maybe he's getting cold feet. Or maybe, I murmured, Ashley's hiding something bigger than we thought. That night, I replayed the footage over and over, analyzing every glance, every hesitation. Ashley's confidence seemed cracked. Jake's composure was frayed. Something had rattled them. I pulled out a notebook, scribbling connections, arrows, possibilities, the cafe, the gym, the apartment. All of it was clear. But now this disruption. What did it mean? And then, as I sat back, exhausted, I realized the wedding was only days away. Whatever storm was brewing between Ashley and Jake, it was about to collide with Ryan's future. The timing was perfect. Terrifying, but perfect. The ocean always looks innocent from a distance blue, endless, sparkling. But if you've lived long enough, you know it hides riptides that can drag you under before you realize you're drowning. That's exactly how Sunset Beach Resort looked that Saturday in Santa Barbara. Idyllic, immaculate, picture-perfect. White chairs lined the sand in neat rows, coral ribbons fluttered in the salt breeze, and a string quartet rehearsed soft notes under a tent. Guests arrived in colorful sundresses and linen suits, smiling, laughing, snapping selfies with the Pacific glimmering behind them. To anyone else, it was paradise. To me, it was a crime scene waiting for the tape to be drawn. I arrived early, wearing a navy sundress and a floppy hat pulled low. To the world, I was just another guest, maybe a photographer, blending into the background. To myself, I was the ghost in their fairy tale, the shadow they thought they'd erased. I carried no invitation, but I carried something far more powerful, truth locked on memory cards in my purse. Inside the resort lobby, chandeliers sparkled above polished marble. A concierge smiled politely when I asked for directions to the wedding suites. My voice was calm, pleasant, practiced. "I'm with the Williams, Thompson wedding," I said. Nobody questioned me. Who would? Weddings overflow with strangers, cousins, co-workers, plus ones. The elevator doors closed, and as I rose to the third floor, I braced myself. The hallway was alive with activity. Bridesmaids in coral dresses hurried with bouquets, hair curlers, makeup kits. Groomsmen lingered outside the groom's suite, joking, their laughter spilling into the corridor, and then I heard it, Ryan's voice, my son's voice. I froze. For just a moment, everything in me cracked. I could hear him laughing, carefree, the way he used to before life and Ashley dulled his edges. He sounded happy. God help me. He sounded happy. I almost turned back. Almost. Then I heard Ashley's voice from the opposite suite, sharp as glass. "God, I'm so glad we didn't invite his mother. Can you imagine? She would have found some way to make this about her. The woman still dresses like it's 1995. The bridesmaids laughed, high-pitched and cruel. "Don't worry," another voice chimed. "Living in different states will help. You won't have to deal with her much." Ashley's reply cut through me like a blade. "Ryan doesn't know yet. I'm telling him after the honeymoon. I got offered a position in California. It's the perfect excuse to get away from his baggage, his friends, his mother. He'll do whatever I tell him, he always does." I gripped the camera so tightly I thought it might snap. Different states, California. She was planning to uproot him, isolate him further, strip away the last fragments of his identity. Not if I could help it. I walked back to the elevator, silent, the cruel laughter fading behind me. The door slid shut, and in the mirrored wall, I saw my own face, not broken, not defeated, hardened. If there had been any shred of doubt before, it died right there. This wedding wasn't about love, it was about control. And I was about to expose it. By 3:30 p.m., the beach was full. Guests fanned themselves with programs, children ran in the sand, photographers adjusted lenses. I positioned myself near the public access path, camera ready, invisible but close enough. At 4 sharp, the quartet struck the first notes. Guests rose, turning toward the boardwalk as Ashley appeared in her designer gown, glowing like an angel in ivory silk. Every eye was on her, every breath held. Ryan stood at the altar, his face lit with awe, his hands trembling slightly as he watched his bride glide toward him. He looked like the boy who once cried at his hamster's funeral, believing in love and loyalty. He looked like a man about to be destroyed. The ceremony unfolded with precision. The officiant spoke about honesty, commitment, vows sacred and unbroken. The irony nearly choked me. When they spoke their promises, I recorded every word. Ryan's voice cracked as he said, "I vow to honor you above all others." Ashley's tone was smooth, confident, practiced. "I promise to love you, cherish you, and be faithful to you, for as long as we both shall live." Faithful, the word rang false in the air. My camera caught every syllable. The guests applauded, the kiss sealed the lie, and just like that, Ashley Thompson became Mrs. Ryan Williams. But not for long. The reception shimmered with champagne flutes, laughter, clinking silverware. Guests toasted, praising Ashley's sweetness, Ryan's luck. They danced, swayed, smiled for photos. I stayed near the edges, filming discreetly, my heart pounding with every fake laugh Ashley delivered, every tender look she threw at Ryan. Then came the first dance. At last drifted through the ballroom, the kind of song people remember forever. Ryan held Ashley close, swaying gently, whispering in her ear. Cameras flashed, guests sighed, some even teared up. It would have been beautiful if you didn't know what I knew. At 9:30, I spotted him. Jake Patterson, dressed sharp, sliding through the crowd like a predator in silk. He approached Ashley during a slow song. Their eyes met, and she glanced around nervously before slipping away toward the beach exit. My pulse surged. This was it. I followed, careful, keeping to the shadows until I reached the dunes. The moon cast silver on the waves, the surf whispering secrets. There they were, Ashley and Jake, 20 yards away, speaking in hushed tones. Then, without hesitation, he kissed her. She kissed him back. Not a fleeting peck. A full, lingering, undeniable kiss. 3 minutes of betrayal under the California moon, while Ryan danced inside, oblivious, smiling. I filmed every second. My hands shook, but the footage was steady, perfect. When they finally pulled apart, I caught Ashley's words on the mic, 2 more hours and we can leave. I told Ryan I have a headache. The room's ready. Jake nodded. Jennifer thinks I'm in Miami. Perfect. One last celebration before the honeymoon. They walked back separately, Ashley first, Jake minutes later. I stayed in the shadows. The camera still running. My chest ached with fury, sorrow, and grim satisfaction all at once. The truth was mine now. And soon, it would be everyone's. That night, back in Savannah, I worked until dawn. Footage layered over footage, cafe, gym, apartment, and now the wedding night kiss. I built the story piece by piece, framing Ashley's cruelty with Ryan's innocence, her venom with his vows. The video was devastating, seamless, irrefutable, a cinematic weapon disguised as a wedding highlight reel. I uploaded it to Sarah Mitchell's account, scheduled for release at 7 a.m. Sunday, just as Ashley and Ryan boarded their honeymoon flight. By the time they landed, the truth would already be viral. I closed the laptop, drained, staring at the dark screen. For the first time in days, I felt peace. Not joy, not triumph, just peace. Because I knew, without question, that the lie was about to collapse. By the time the bride woke up, her perfect wedding was already America's favorite scandal. Sunday morning in Savannah, I was standing at my stove flipping pancakes when my phone buzzed with the first notification, then another, and another. Within minutes, the buzz turned into a constant vibration, a swarm of alerts that refused to stop. The video had gone live at 7 a.m. sharp. By 7:30, it already had 200,000 views. By 8, it had climbed to nearly 500,000. And by 9, as I poured coffee into my favorite mug, the number had crossed 1 million and showed no sign of slowing down. The comments were brutal, unfiltered, merciless in the way only the internet can be. This poor groom, she didn't even make it through the wedding night before cheating. Proof that social media always catches up to liars. Justice for the mom who probably knew all along. And my favorite, this groom deserves so much better, number wedding truth. I scrolled through the chaos with a calm detachment, like a general surveying a battlefield. The plan had worked. The truth was out. Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away, Ashley and Ryan were boarding a flight to Cancun. By the time they landed, their faces would be splashed across every platform, their vows mocked in GIFs, their kiss replayed side by side, with Ashley kissing Jake under the moonlight. The narrative was simple, clean, devastating. Sarah Mitchell, the persona I'd crafted with care, had posted the footage with a caption that cut to the bone. Sometimes the truth has to crash the wedding. This groom deserved better. Number wedding day truth number, when love is not enough. And the world had eaten it up. Sandra burst into my kitchen at 9:30 a.m., carrying a bag from my favorite bakery and grinning like a cat who'd swallowed the canary. "You magnificent witch," she said, dropping the bag on the counter. "Have you seen the news?" I raised an eyebrow. "News?" She grabbed the remote, flicked on the TV, and flipped to Channel 7. There it was, Ashley's wedding photo, her radiant smile frozen on screen, next to the headline, "Viral Wedding Video Exposes Cheating Bride." The anchor's voice was steady, grave, but tinged with curiosity. The video, posted by an anonymous user under the name Sarah Mitchell, has amassed over 2 million views in just 2 hours. It shows the bride engaging in an intimate encounter with another man, not her groom, during the wedding celebration. The groom's identity has not been confirmed by the uploader, but online users quickly connected the dots. Sandra laughed so hard, she nearly spilled her coffee. "They're calling you the mystery wedding photographer, imagine that." I smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it for me. This wasn't about internet fame, this was about Ryan. At 10 a.m., my phone rang again. Ryan's name flashed across the screen. For the 5th time that morning, I let it go to voicemail. His voice, broken, filled the recording. "Mom, we need to talk, please." I closed my eyes, the ache in my chest sharp. Not yet. He wasn't ready. Not until he knew everything. By 10:15, a new message appeared, this one from an unknown number. "We know it was you. Delete the video or there will be consequences. Ashley." Sandra leaned over my shoulder reading. "She's scared, that means you won. Or it means she's about to fight dirtier than ever," I said quietly. At 11, another knock at the door. I opened it to find a woman I recognized instantly, though I'd never met her before. Jennifer Patterson, Jake's wife. Her eyes were red, swollen, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. "Mrs. Williams?" she asked softly. "I think we need to talk." I invited her in, sat her at the table, poured her coffee. For a long moment, she just stared into the cup as if searching for strength. Then she looked up, her voice breaking. "My husband, that video," I nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." "No," her eyes brimmed with tears. "Don't apologize. I've suspected for months, the late nights, the excuses, the apartment lease I found in his desk. But seeing it time-stamped, undeniable, I finally know I wasn't crazy, I wasn't paranoid." Her voice cracked. "Thank you for giving me the truth. It hurts, but at least I know." I reached across the table, touched her hand. You deserve better than lies, so does Ryan. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I've already called my lawyer. Divorce papers are being filed this week. He's going to lose everything. The steel in her voice surprised me. Beneath the tears, Jennifer was stronger than I'd expected. And your son? She asked gently. My throat tightened. He's calling, but I can't pick up. Not yet. Jennifer squeezed my hand. He'll understand, eventually. By noon, the video had reached 4.1 million views. By 2 p.m., it was over 6 million. The hashtags trended globally. Number wedding truth, number justice grandma, number when love is not enough. The internet had chosen sides. Half the commenters praised me, though they didn't know it was me, for exposing a liar. They wrote about maternal instinct, protecting family, truth above all. The other half condemned me again, without knowing me, for humiliation, cruelty, vindictiveness. They asked whether anyone had the right to air private sins so publicly. I sat between those worlds, untouched by either. Hero or villain, it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that Ryan finally saw the truth. At 3 p.m., Sandra returned from town with more news. People are starting to speculate, she said, dropping her purse on the chair. Some think it's a wedding guest. Others think it's a private investigator. A few even think it's the mother of the groom. I looked at her sharply. How close are they? Close enough to make Ashley sweat, she grinned, not close enough to prove anything. I turned the thought over in my mind. It was inevitable. Eventually, someone would guess. Eventually, someone would come knocking. But by then, it wouldn't matter. The damage was done. That evening, as the sun set, I sat on my porch, sipping tea, watching neighbors walk their dogs, laughing children ride bikes. Life looked so ordinary. But my phone continued to buzz, the world inside it anything but ordinary. At 7 p.m., Ryan called again. This time I answered. Mom, he whispered, his voice raw, frayed. Tell me you didn't do this. My heart clenched. Do what, sweetheart? The video. Ashley says, she says you hired someone, that you've been stalking her, that you planned this. I inhaled deeply, steadying myself. And what do you think, Ryan? Silence. Then, a broken whisper. I think my mother wouldn't be this cruel. Not just because her feelings were hurt. His faith in me was a knife and a balm all at once. I closed my eyes. Sweetheart, the only cruelty here is what she did to you. He didn't reply. Just breathed, ragged, like a man drowning. Finally, he said, I'll come by tomorrow. We need to talk. Then he hung up. Some conversations taste like coffee and heartbreak. Monday evening, the house was quiet when Ryan finally came. I heard his car pull into the driveway, the familiar crunch of tires on gravel. My chest tightened as I watched through the curtain. He stepped out slowly, his shoulders slumped, his hair mussed, the weight of the last 48 hours written in every line of his face. My boy looked like he had aged 10 years since the wedding. When he knocked, it wasn't the confident knock of a man. It was tentative, hesitant, as if he wasn't sure he belonged here anymore. I opened the door. Come in. He stepped inside, carrying none of the joy, none of the pride he had worn in his wedding suit. Now, he looked like a man undone. Coffee? I asked. He nodded, wordless. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he had done homework as a child, where I'd patched his scraped knees, where we'd celebrated birthdays with store-bought cakes and laughter. Now, the air between us was thick, charged, suffocating. Finally, Ryan spoke. His voice was low, raw. Mom, did you make that video? The question I'd been bracing for. I wrapped my hands around the mug, steadying myself. What video? His eyes flared. Don't do that. Please, don't play dumb. Ashley says you hired someone, that you've been following her, that you wanted to destroy her. I inhaled slowly, letting the silence stretch. And what do you think, Ryan? He stared at me for a long time, his jaw tight, his hands clenching on the table. I think my mother wouldn't be that cruel. Not just because her feelings were hurt. The words cut me. Because part of me wanted to be cruel. Part of me had savored every second of Ashley's downfall. But cruelty wasn't the point. The truth was, sweetheart, I said gently, you saw the video. Was any of it fake? His eyes dropped to his coffee. No. Then what matters is not who made it. What matters is what it showed. He shook his head, his voice rising. It matters to me, Mom. It matters if my own mother was spying on my wife, collecting her mistakes, waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate her. It matters if the woman I trusted most was capable of that. His words cracked something inside me. My throat ached, but I forced myself to stay steady. Would you rather not know? Would you rather go on living in her lie? Ryan slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed. I wanted my marriage, Mom. I wanted a chance to believe, and now I can't look at her without seeing that video playing on loop in my head. I leaned forward, my voice firm. That's not because of me. That's because of what she did. Don't mistake the messenger for the crime. He looked up, tears burning his eyes. She says it didn't mean anything, that it was stress, cold feet, that Jake was just helping her work through doubts. My lips curled bitterly. Cold feet don't last 6 months, and cold feet don't sign a lease for an apartment on Maple Street. His head snapped up. How do you know about that? I hesitated. For one dangerous moment, I thought I'd gone too far, but the truth pressed forward, because I heard her talking, in the bridal suite. She planned to move to California after the honeymoon, to cut ties, with everyone, with me, with your friends, with your life here, and you. She was going to drag you along like luggage. The words landed like blows. Ryan's face crumpled, his hands shaking. He pushed back from the table, pacing the kitchen like a trapped animal. She said she loved me, he whispered. She might have, I said softly, but love doesn't excuse betrayal. Love doesn't erase contempt, and she had plenty of both. He stopped, his back to me, shoulders trembling. I don't know what to believe anymore. I rose and touched his arm, the same way I had when he was a boy frightened of thunder. Believe what you saw with your own eyes. Believe what you heard with your own ears. That is the only truth that matters. For a long moment, he stood still. Then he turned, eyes red, voice broken. I feel like I'm losing everything at once. My marriage, my trust, maybe even you. I pulled him into my arms. He clung to me, sobbing like the boy he once was, the boy who had always trusted me to tell him the truth even when it hurt. You're not losing me, I whispered fiercely. You never could. We sat in silence after his tears subsided, sipping the now cold coffee. Finally, Ryan said, she wants to work on it. She says if we move to California, we can start fresh, away from all this. I searched his face. And what do you want? He swallowed hard. I want to trust my wife, but every time I close my eyes, I see that video. I see her kissing him, laughing about you, planning a life without me. I don't know if I can ever come back from that. Then you already have your answer, I said quietly. He exhaled sharply, burying his face in his hands. The kitchen clock ticked loudly, marking the seconds of his silence. At last, he looked up. Mom, I need to ask you again. Did you make that video? My heart thundered. I looked at him, really looked. At the man he had become, at the boy I had raised. And I lied. No, I said. I didn't. Relief washed over his face instantly, like cool water after fire. I knew it. I told her you weren't capable of something like that. He believed me. Even when I bent the truth so thin it nearly snapped, he believed me. Because Ryan wanted to believe. And that broke me more than anything else. Later, after he left, the house felt too quiet. His coffee cup still sat on the table, half empty, a ring of dark liquid marking the wood. I stared at it, my chest heavy with the weight of deception. Yes, I had saved him. But I had also lied to him, and lies have a way of circling back. I sat at my desk, opening the laptop once again. The video now had over 8 million views. Sarah Mitchell had gained 200,000 followers overnight. The internet had crowned me both hero and villain. But I wasn't thinking about strangers. I was thinking about my son, driving back to his apartment, his heart cracked in two, still clinging to the illusion that his mother was blameless. Would he still look at me the same way when he discovered the truth? Because the truth always comes out. Always. Some enemies storm through your door with noise and fury. Others arrive quietly, dressed in expensive clothes and a perfect smile, only for that smile to shatter once the door closes. Ashley was the second kind. The knock at my door wasn't gentle, it was clipped, sharp, impatient. By the time I opened it, she was already tugging her sunglasses down, her jaw tight. I knew then, this wasn't a visit. It was an ambush. She swept past me without asking, heels clicking across my hardwood floor. She carried herself like she still had power, but the cracks in her armor showed. Her hair, usually flawless, looked hastily brushed. The corners of her eyes were red, her skin pale beneath expertly applied foundation. In the kitchen, she threw her sunglasses and hat on the counter with a force that made the ceramic fruit bowl wobble. "You've destroyed my life," she said, voice low but vibrating with rage. I closed the door slowly, leaning against it. My hands stayed steady, though my chest ached with the weight of the moment. "No," I said. "You destroyed it yourself." She spun on me like a cornered animal. "Don't you dare." Her voice cracked, then sharpened. "Don't you stand there and act righteous after what you've done. You stalked me, you filmed me, you humiliated me in front of the entire world." I walked into the kitchen, standing on the opposite side of the counter. "Did I make you kiss Jake on the beach? Did I force you into his SUV, into his apartment? Did I whisper those words in the bridal suite mocking me, mocking Ryan while you put on your dress and prepared to say vows you never meant?" Her face twisted, the bravado flickering into something raw. "You edited it," she snapped. "You cut it together to make me look like a villain." "Edited?" My voice was cold, steady. "Ashley, the only editing I did was cutting out the parts where you looked bored. Every other moment was yours, every touch, every word, every lie." For the first time, she faltered. Her chin trembled, though she tried to mask it with a scornful tilt of her head. "Ryan will never forgive you for this. He thinks you're innocent now, but when he learns the truth, when he realizes you're Sarah Mitchell, he'll hate you. He'll cut you out of his life forever." The words were sharp, aimed directly at my heart, but I didn't flinch. "If the price of saving him from you is his anger, then I'll pay it." Her laugh was bitter, empty. "You think you've won? A viral video, a couple million strangers calling you a hero. You think that means anything? I still have him. He loves me. He'll always love me." I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "Love doesn't survive contempt, and that's what you've been feeding him for 2 years." Her eyes narrowed, but then for the first time, she broke. Ashley sat down hard at the table, her perfect posture collapsing. She covered her face with her hands. Her voice, muffled but shaking, slipped through her fingers. "Do you have any idea what it's like? To be adored but never challenged, to be worshipped but never truly seen? Ryan is sweet, yes, gentle, but he's weak. He never pushes back, never makes me feel alive." I stayed still, watching. Her hands dropped. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Jake did. He made me feel like fire. I thought I could have both. The stability of Ryan, the passion of Jake. Why shouldn't I?" Her question wasn't defiant, it was pitiful, a child asking why the world won't bend to her will. "Because someone always bleeds," I said quietly. "And in your game, it's everyone." Ashley's mouth trembled. For a flicker of a second, I saw not the manipulator but the scared girl beneath the mask, crushed by her own lies. "I never meant for it to go this far," she whispered. "The affair was supposed to end after the wedding. Jake was just my last bit of freedom before being locked into the role of a perfect wife. But it didn't end. It only got stronger. And then the job offer came California. It felt like fate, a way to start over. Maybe even—" She trailed off, staring at the table. "Even what?" I pressed. Her voice broke. "Even be with Jake eventually. Leave Ryan gently, slowly, so he wouldn't be shattered all at once." The words made me sick. My son's life reduced to strategy, his heart to collateral damage. "You're 28 years old," I said, my voice sharp. "You don't get to excuse cruelty as confusion. You knew what you were doing. You planned every lie, every kiss, every cover story. And now you're crying not because of what you did, but because you got caught." Her mascara smeared as she dragged her hands over her face. She looked younger in that moment, smaller, like a girl out of her depth. "Can you get the video taken down?" she asked suddenly, her voice desperate. "Please, I'll do anything." I shook my head. "Even if I could, it wouldn't matter. It's everywhere now. Screenshots, copies, reposts. It's out there forever." Ashley's sob broke the air. "So I'm ruined." "No," I said, softer now. You're only ruined if you stay this way. You can still tell Ryan the truth, not the curated half-clean version. The whole truth. It's the only chance you have left." She lifted her head, her face streaked with black tears. "He'll leave me." "Maybe," I said. "But if you keep lying, you'll lose him anyway. And you'll lose yourself." For a long time, she was silent. Then she stood slowly, her shoulders stiffening again, reassembling the mask she'd worn so well. She picked up her sunglasses, sliding them back on like armor. At the door she paused. Her voice was low, hollow. "You've taken everything from me." I didn't move. "No, Ashley. You took it from yourself." She left without another word. I watched her sit in her car for 10 long minutes, staring blankly at the steering wheel before she finally drove away. That night, the house felt cavernous, as though Ashley had dragged a storm in with her and left the wreckage behind. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where she had broken down. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but what I felt was tired, so tired. At 9 p.m., the phone rang. Ryan. I picked up. His voice was hollow, heavy. "She told me everything." My chest tightened. And I don't know what to feel. Part of me still loves her. Part of me wants to forgive her. But every time I close my eyes, I see that video. I see her with him. I don't think I can ever unsee it. I was silent, letting his words settle. "Mom," his voice cracked. "Did you make that video?" The lie I had told yesterday sat bitter on my tongue. He still trusted me. He still believed I was incapable of deception. I whispered the same word again. "No." He exhaled, relief rushing through the line. "I knew it. I told her you wouldn't do something like that. You've always been better than that." The trust in his voice was a dagger. I had lied to him twice now, and I knew lies had a way of burning through everything eventually. "Ryan," I said softly, "whatever you decide, just remember that you deserve honesty. You deserve someone who loves you without conditions or betrayals." Silence stretched, then he whispered, "I don't know if I'll ever find that." "You will," I said. "One day." When the call ended, I set the phone down gently, my hands trembling. Some storms don't end with thunder, they end with silence, the kind that's louder than any noise. When the reporter's message hit my phone, I knew my time as Sarah Mitchell was almost over. For weeks, I'd been dancing between truth and lies, playing mother and avenger, protector and manipulator. But the press had caught the scent, and soon the world would know the face behind the viral video. And maybe Ryan would too. 2 days later, it wasn't a message, it was a knock at my door. Not Ashley this time, not Ryan. A young woman with a microphone, hair styled perfectly, cameraman in tow. Channel 7. The story had bled from social media into the mainstream. "Mrs. Williams," she began brightly, "you're the mother of Ryan Williams, the groom in the viral wedding video. We'd love to ask you a few questions." I could have slammed the door. I could have lied. But instead, I let them in. Because some truths can't be hidden forever. We sat in my living room. The camera's red light blinked like a pulse. The reporter smiled politely, poised to devour me. "How did it feel," she asked, "to be excluded from your son's wedding?" I looked at the lens and let my voice steady. "It felt like grief. Like being erased from your own child's life." "And when the video surfaced?" I breathed in. This was the moment. I could deny, deflect, vanish, or I could stand in the fire. "Sometimes," I said slowly, "when your child is being hurt, a mother has 2 choices, to watch silently or to intervene. I chose to intervene." The reporter leaned forward. "Are you saying you made the video?" Silence stretched. Sandra, sitting in the corner, looked at me sharply, almost pleading. "Yes," I said finally. "I made it. Every second." The cameraman froze for just a beat before the reporter found her voice again. "So you're admitting you orchestrated one of the most viral wedding scandals of the year?" "I'm admitting I loved my son enough to make sure he knew the truth, even if it meant he hated me for it." The interview ended. They left, buzzing with their scoop. I sat on my couch afterward, drained, staring at the carpet. By evening, the headline was everywhere. "Mother of groom admits to viral wedding video. Hero, villain, manipulative, brave. The world couldn't decide what I was, and maybe neither could I." Ryan came that night. He didn't knock softly. He stormed in, holding his phone with the headline still glowing on the screen. "You lied to me. His voice was hoarse, eyes blazing. "Twice. I asked you, twice. And you lied." My hands trembled. "Ryan!" "No!" He slammed the phone on the table. "Do you have any idea what that did to me? I defended you. I told Ashley you weren't capable of something like this. I told myself my mother would never lie to me. And now I don't know who you are." His words hit harder than any slap. I swallowed hard. "I am still your mother, the same mother who raised you alone, who worked 2 jobs so you could go to college, who—" He cut me off. "Don't you dare use that. Don't you dare weaponize everything you sacrificed just to excuse this." Silence. His chest rose and fell sharply, anger radiating from him like heat. Finally I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper. "I did it to protect you." His laugh was bitter, broken. "Protect me? You humiliated me in front of the entire world. Do you know what it feels like to have strangers debating your marriage on Twitter, to see your vows turned into memes?" I stood, tears in my eyes. "And what would you prefer? To live in a lie? To wake up every day next to a woman who despised you, who mocked your family, who cheated on you without shame? Would you rather I stayed silent?" He froze, his face contorted, torn between fury and pain. "I wanted to find out on my own," he whispered. "I wanted the choice to leave or stay without the entire world watching. You took that from me." The silence that followed was unbearable. I wanted to reach for him, but he stepped back. "I don't know if I can forgive you," he said finally. His voice cracked on the last word. "Not yet." And then he walked out, leaving the door wide open, the night air rushing in like judgment. For 3 days, I didn't hear from him. 3 days of watching pundits argue about me on TV. 3 days of scrolling through comments calling me everything from Justice Grandma to vindictive witch. 3 days of Ashley posting cryptic Instagram stories about betrayal and resilience. Then on the 4th day, a knock. This time, it was Ashley. She looked different, smaller, her glow dimmed. No makeup, no armor. She held herself with the brittle defiance of someone who'd lost more than she could admit. "I wanted you to know," she said flatly. "Ryan filed for annulment. It's over." I stayed silent. She laughed bitterly. "Congratulations. You won." I shook my head. Nobody won. For a moment, she looked like she might break again. Then she straightened. "You'll regret this one day. Maybe not now, but when Ryan can't look at you the same way again, you'll regret it." She left without another word. I watched her go, realizing she was right about one thing. There were no victors here, only survivors. A week later, Ryan finally returned. He looked tired, older, but steadier somehow. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wood grain, not at me. "I started therapy," he said quietly. "I need to untangle everything. Her, you, the lies, the truth." I nodded, my throat too tight for words. "I don't hate you," he said after a long pause. "But I don't trust you either, not yet." The words were both a mercy and a punishment. We sat in silence, a fragile truce. Months passed. Ashley moved to California, chasing her fresh start. Jake lost everything in the divorce. Jennifer remarried. Ryan healed, slowly, cautiously, rebuilding piece by piece. And me? I became both a cautionary tale and a folk hero. Interview requests flooded in. Documentaries, podcasts, think pieces. Some painted me as a warrior for truth. Others condemned me as a narcissist who cared more about vindication than my son's dignity. I turned most of them down. The world had already heard enough. But sometimes, late at night, I'd open the video again, watch Ryan's smile at the altar, Ashley's vows, the kiss with Jake on the beach. I'd ask myself, had I done the right thing? The answer never came easy. Some nights, I believed I'd saved him. Other nights, I feared I'd broken him just as much as Ashley had. The last time Ashley called me, months later, her voice was strangely calm. "You ruined my life," she said. I exhaled. "No, Ashley. I just turned on the lights." She hung up without another word. I stared at the phone, my heart heavy, because maybe we were both right.